Welcome back. It's game day on RGR and something new for you. This is Quincy Carrier, who knows more about the Cleveland Browns than anybody should. How are you, Quincy?
I'm doing good. Excited for the game. I think it's going to be an exciting one at Arrowhead, and excited to talk to you about this game, man.
Man, I tell you what, it sounds like there's going to be more Browns fans there than we've seen a foreign invader in quite a long time. How pumped up are Browns fans about this?
I mean, pretty pumped. First playoff game in a divisional round since 1994. To give Chiefs fans context, you know who was the head coach of that team? Bill Belichick. Yes, that Bill Belichick with Nick Saban. Yes, that Nick Saban as his defensive coordinator. And all of those guys, both of those guys, Bill Belichick has only built the NFL's most dominating dynasty in this century, won 6 Super Bowl rings, and then had it implode in that time frame. And Nick Saban has won, 7, 8? Well, that's just at Alabama. I'm sorry. Like 8 national championships. Given that was the coaching staff the last time the Browns were in this round, it has been quite a long time. We couldn't get into the field at Pittsburgh. They didn't allow any outside fans, so they are dying to get their hands on these tickets there at Arrowhead. So it's going to have a little bit of a bowl game atmosphere over there. So it's going to be fun to watch, man. A little bit of an atmosphere always makes the game better.
I'm just going to say, welcome to Lot D. Enjoy the barbecue. Don't have too much fun inside the stadium, please. So that said, when we look at the matchups, really impressive to watch what they did to get here, right? The Cleveland Browns have made steps, and I know how fun it is to finally beat down your rival, right? But is there a hangover, beating them to get in and then beating them again, knocking them out? Like, is there emotionally enough space for them to get back up?
You worry about that, right? Because not only was it beating Pittsburgh twice, not only was it your first playoff game in 17 years, not only was it the first time you've beaten Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh in over a decade, it was also Pittsburgh putting the icing on the cake all week by just overlooking you, saying the Browns is the Browns, Juju with his TikToks. It made that victory super sweet, right? So you are worried that this team might come in a little bit down on energy, a little bit flat after playing that game Sunday Night Football. The world was watching, and the world was celebrating with the Browns because everybody loves to dance on the Steelers' grave, and it did look like that would be their grave that Sunday night game, because it don't look like Pouncey or Ben Roethlisberger is going to come back, but they're never dead until they're dead. But that is something that I would be more concerned about if I wasn't so confident in the job that Kevin Stefanski has done, because to his credit, this team has had multiple times this year where it looked like it was either going to fly off the rails if one thing went wrong, going into the bye week after they lost that game to the Raiders, which was a kind of an inexcusable loss, how they lost that game. And then also, after the Titans win, where they kind of proved themselves in that way, where it looked like, okay, they can be hungover. They're going to be overlooking this team. But Kevin Stefanski has always had these guys ready. He says one game at a time, and it seems like the team has really bought into that. Baker Mayfield also, something he doesn't get a lot of credit for. He's been a tremendous leader. I always point to that 2019 season that it went as bad as it did, and it blew up, and it was as embarrassing as it was. Nobody on that team ever turned their back on Baker or ever pointed their finger, had that meltdown with Baker. So it points to the leadership that he's done. He's only gotten better in his third year. So I trust that this team can celebrate, enjoy getting the biggest monkey off their back in franchise history. Like, that was a huge one. I say a cloud of mediocrity has been raining on this franchise until they got that win on Sunday night. So now that that's clear, let's hope that they're focused and ready to go, because there's a lot there for this team if they come and play the football that they have been capable of all season.
I want to tell you, my goal in life is to be as good at my job as Kevin Stefanski is at his, so that you can do it without even showing up.
Hey, I'd say that's the hallmark of a great coach, though, right? It's not just about him there. Right? You build a foundation, because I've been, I think anybody who's played any level of sports has been on a poorly coached team, or a team that might have had like one decent coach on it, where it's like, okay, against Coach Ryan out there, we serious. We're going to do our drills. We're not going to half it in the weight room. We're going to do everything we need to. We're going to take care of business. But Coach Steve it's recess with Coach Steve. You know, we not really stretching with Coach Steve in charge of the practice. So it's a testament to the culture change that has gone on in Cleveland. It's a testament to the locker room leadership in Baker Mayfield, Jarvis Landry, Myles Garrett, all a big part of that they can not have some key pillars there, but, you know, continue to have that mindset and be prepared and not choke away something like your first playoff game in 15 years. It is, if nothing else gets him coach of the year, that fact alone should, that he has done that. And with all the hurdles that the pandemic has given a first-year head coach this year too, you know, it's amazing that he's done this.
Yeah, it's really impressive. And when you look at the two of them paired together, my question comes back to, and folks, if you want to see how this team works, go watch all the film breakdowns on Quincy's channel, because you'll learn something there that I ain't going to show you, that's for sure. But when you take a look at these two guys, and I feel like they're kind of like a pair that has to function together, much like Mahomes and Andy have to. Like, if you're them, if you're game planning this week and you're looking at that Chiefs defense with a couple of spots here, where's your emphasis? What are you trying to attack?
I think it's, for a little while here, right, the Browns have gotten into a spell where Baker's been hot and Baker's been playing really well. And they've been kind of just, hey, we can go empty with Baker. We don't have to do the play action stuff as much. You know, I think a lot of that stuff early on were crutches for Baker, but I think those are also strengths for Baker. How well he plays in that play action. Whenever he has to boot, he's athletic enough to do those things. He has the great arm strength. People don't talk about Josh Allen has crazy arm strength. And Patrick Mahomes has crazy arm strength because they are aliens. Like, they are alien strong at the quarterback position when it comes to arm strength. Among normal human beings, Baker Mayfield would have one of the strongest arms in the NFL. It's just he's being compared to aliens at this point, right? But, you know, he has all those things, and it is tempting to do those things because teams do tend to just say, all right, we're going to stop the run. You know, beat us, Baker, and Baker can do that if you dare him to. But I do think this week, given, you know what, it's a Kareem Hunt return game, Nick Chubb, you didn't really get him as involved in the running game in the last 2 weeks that you would think. So I think this is the game where the Browns go all out with the run like they did early in the season. I think this is the game where you can see Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb getting a ridiculous amount of carries, especially if they can have success late. And if they can, it becomes more beneficial to the Browns because they're kind of a downhill scheme where by the time you get to the fourth quarter and you're tackling those guys, it just becomes like butter with that rushing attack.
That's something that makes me, you know, cringe a little bit. I got to be honest. And that's exactly what I expect is to. If you can hit with them, the Chiefs can wear down. They're apt to kind of flip it, and they're less concerned about giving up yardage on the ground than they are through the air. They're going to concentrate on that pass game. And at the end of the day, I think it's going to be a pretty good matchup that way. The question for me is when you look at it in reverse, when Patrick is out there with the offensive scheme, looks like he'll have Lev Bell as the tailback, but other than that, looks like Sammy Watkins isn't going to make it. Folks, you're probably hearing this pre-recorded a little bit, so we'll have the final rundown of the inactives here in just a couple of minutes on another video. But that said, how do you think they're going to take the philosophy of trying to slow down Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, without giving away to the rest of the role players, as a lot of folks want to call them?
Yeah, so the one thing you can't do is blitz, right? Like, don't blitz Patrick Mahomes. That's a golden rule in the NFL. Don't do it. It's literally never worked. There's no game where it's like, hey, we blitz Patrick Mahomes and we shut him down and he threw 4 interceptions. Like, no, that is not working with Patrick Mahomes. It is a lie that defensive coordinators love to tell themselves, and they always get themselves in trouble with doing that. So you don't want to blitz Patrick Mahomes. What you do want to do is try to get pressure with your front four. If you could do that and keep a lot of guys in coverage, you can do you aren't going to shut down the Chiefs offense, but you can bottleneck them a little bit to slow them down and get those 2 3-and-outs that you might need, or not 3-and-outs, but 2 punts that you might need the Chiefs to give you in order to get an advantage on this team. That's what it's going to come down to. And a lot of that's going to come down to Myles Garrett and this defensive line being able to take advantage of the offensive line matchup that they're going to be going against. Because, you know, I like Denzel Ward. I like Kevin Johnson. You know, I think they have solid corners, the Cleveland Browns do. I think they're better than a lot of people do, but I do not like the back end for this team. Ronnie Harrison is a solid player, but everybody else in that back end is slow. They're just not fast enough to keep up with the Chiefs. And if Patrick Mahomes gets a ton of time back there, or worse, you blitz and flush him out the pocket, he will throw touchdowns. Like, that will happen because lesser combinations of players have done. Mason Rudolph did it with the Browns when they decided to blitz him a ton. So if Mason Rudolph can do it, you bet Patrick Mahomes can do it, blindfolded. So that is something to be concerned about, but that's also where you want to win, is on that line of scrimmage with the front four. You're going to be relying on Myles Garrett to have the type of game to where they're scrambling on the offensive side of the ball to figure out what they are going to do with him, and worried about what they're going to do with him. And that's going to change everything about how they attack. You want to take them out of their game plan, that's going to have to be Myles Garrett. And luckily for the Browns, it's their best defensive player, so you're not asking something outrageous of like a role player or something like that. It's Myles Garrett that you need to step up. And that's as good as a position you can be in if you're the Cleveland Browns. You've been as bad in the coverage area that you have been. That's as good as a position you can be in against the Chiefs.
Now, I know Myles played on both sides of the formation, but do they flip him during games left and right?
They flip him wherever Myles wants to be. Myles will take snaps on the left side, on the right side, on the inside. He has taken snaps. He takes snaps anywhere on the defensive line where they feel like they have a matchup that they like. So if you have like a slow guard or an unathletic guard out there, they will put Myles in there. He will hit that spin move, and a lot of times he tends to connect with it. If there's a weak point on a defensive line, they're really flexible, and Myles is really flexible with being and lining up wherever he wants to be. Because the one thing with the Browns not having a ton of beef on that inside of the defensive line, it makes them very versatile. You'll see times where like Sheldon Richardson will be an edge defender. Larry Ogunjobi's not somebody who will ever go to the edge, but he's somebody who's flexible in what you can do. You could put like a Taki on the line and have him blitz off the edge and have him be an interior and run like a hybrid 3-4 on some sets, So they're flexible with what they need to do with Myles. And early in the season, they were doing that and murdering teams. Well, Myles was at least murdering guys there. You're talking about the 2 sacks, the safety games, the strip sack streak that he was on, but ever since he's gotten off the protocol list, he just hasn't been the same Myles Garrett. He's had to do breathing therapy. It's been a little bit of an issue. And we're hoping in Cleveland that 5 weeks after he's been on that list, he starts to be that Myles Garrett that was really challenging Aaron Donald and TJ Watt for Defensive Player of the Year.
I wonder if they choose to rush with contain or not go, pedal to the metal against Mahomes for fear of that rollout aspect. Do you think that they want to be a little bit more conservative with not letting him or forcing him out of the pocket?
Yeah, especially since you don't have Olivier Vernon out there. So like you're going to have guys like Porter Gustin and Adrian Claiborne. Adrian Claiborne's like 30 something years old. So you're just not going to want to put those guys in position where they're going to have to chase somebody as athletic as Patrick Mahomes is. And they've ran into this problem with Lamar Jackson, right? And Lamar Jackson, a little bit more athletic than Patrick Mahomes, but both guys are similarly very athletic. But, you run into those problems where they might get a lane, but they overrun it. They're just not athletic enough to compensate. And then you end up with, in Cleveland, we call it fat guy chasing Ben syndrome, where you got a guy chasing Ben, but he just finds Antonio Brown down the field anyway before you can touch him. So that's definitely been a concern. And you can kind of remedy that with just, if you put Myles like in the middle on some snaps, so that way you have your most athletic guy in a position to make an athletic play. But outside of Myles, no, nobody else should be getting free reign to break contain or anything like that, especially since you're going to be worried about what the Chiefs can do out the shotgun when it comes to the zone run schemes.
Yeah, and that's something they're going to see quite a bit. I think it's interesting because one matchup that the Chiefs are real familiar with is Carl Joseph back there. Like you were talking about the safeties, he and Travis Kelce have gone round and round and round. For me, and I saw one of your videos where you kind of showed what I had seen against the Steelers, but do they have in their bag of tricks where they can do some exotic coverages in the back shell, or are they really looking to keep it covered too and not do anything too complex?
They might have it, but they shouldn't use it because the biggest problem with that back end, one, it's a lack of speed, right? So like you don't want to get so exotic to the point where like you're lining up somebody out of position. They can't get there. Like that's what happened with Chase Claypool a lot, where they were trying to get a little exotic and, you have somebody line up on the wrong side of the hash on purpose to try to throw off Ben. And then, you just can't get over there in time to get to Chase Claypool. So that's been one of the problems. I don't know if Carl Joseph held up well against Travis Kelce when he was in Oakland. In Cleveland, he's kind of had an iron boot syndrome where he just got some heavy feet. And he's not as fast as you would expect him to be. So that's also been an issue. And then the other issue with the secondary that I haven't touched on is the communication, right? It's been atrocious at times, right? If you watch the Jets game, you're talking about dudes just running into each other all game, not even on pick plays, just on regular meshes, things that you would expect the NFL defense to be able to communicate effectively on. That's what I'm also worried about with the amount of motion, pre-snap stuff the Chiefs like to do. A lot of that stuff's going to confuse this Browns secondary if they don't have their communication down pat. So you're going to see the basics out of this secondary. They got to keep it simple because they just can't afford to be more complicated than they have to be, right? They can't afford to try to get cute here because they haven't really done the fundamentals right. And that's been the biggest problem why a lot of Browns fans aren't happy with Joe Woods is because the personnel's not terrible when you look at it. The execution on defense has been atrocious for a large part of this season. It did not show itself in Pittsburgh, but that's because the Pittsburgh Steelers decided to play an atrocious game on Sunday, but it's been there late in this season for the Cleveland Browns, and going up against a unit that's as well polished as the Kansas City Chiefs, you best believe they're going to try to force some of those issues. And if you compound that with trying to get more exotic and doing things that you have not run all season, I promise you're going to see what I like to call the butt booty naked open Travis Kelce touchdown. We're just like, who was covering him? Right. It's supposed to probably be Carl Joseph, but he thought it was like Tampa 2 or something. Like it's going to be something like that where something doesn't get communicated. That's going to be an issue for the secondary. So the more simple they can keep it, the more at ease I'm going to be. And again, that's why I want the defensive line to solve this. Don't get cute in the back end. Defensive line, do what you can. I'll live with whatever you do if you keep it simple. I just don't want to see these DBs miscommunicating, running into each other, because then you don't even give yourself a shot.
Yeah. Chiefs call that play, where'd who go? Sorry, flashback. All right. Now, this is totally optional. Not to put you on the spot, but if you want, we can explore a prediction. Do you have a feel for how this is going to go?
I don't like to go with predictions, but I do like to go with like a prediction on how wide or narrow a path of victory is, right? Because I think that's really what it comes down to in football, right? Matchups and how much room for error do you have when it comes to mistakes in making to win this game? To me, for the Cleveland Browns, I think a lot of people are coming to this thinking the Browns have like a really narrow path to victory. I don't think it's super narrow. I think they can make some mistakes. I don't think it's so narrow that they have to get like +2 in turnovers to win this game or something like that. I think they can win this game if Pat doesn't give them the ball or if the Chiefs don't give them the ball. I just think they have to do what they can do on offense and what I'm convinced they can do on offense, which is dominate the line of scrimmage offensively against the Chiefs defensive line. And if they can get that matchup win on the defensive line against the Chiefs, you're not going to shut them down, but maybe you keep them under 30. And if you can keep them under 30, I think you can hold on to the ball long enough and drain this game out with your running game to be able to win this game. And I don't think that's an unlikely probability. You can tell I'm a Browns fan because I'm overly superstitious. I am not going to predict this, but I think, those things kind of make this a solid matchup for the Browns against the Kansas City Chiefs. And I think this is one of the better, more favorable matchups a team can have against the Kansas City Chiefs. I think the best one is Baltimore playing like how Baltimore is playing right now. I know you guys blew them out earlier in the season, but that's when they were trying to feature Marquise Brown and all this stuff. And, they got away from what they do well. And if the Browns don't do that, right, if they don't fall into the same trap that Harbaugh did, where they get away from doing what they do well, I think there's a lot of success that can be there. And I think there's a lot of things they can do with time of possession and trying to get the Chiefs off the field just 1 or 2 times to be able to get the advantage in this game. It is going to take some luck, but I don't think it's going to be to the point to where like I would be shocked that the Browns win this game.
Well, I like what you say about margins. I think this game is going to be a tighter margin than most talking heads think it will be. So I appreciate you agreeing with me on that one. I appreciate the time as well. Folks, I hope that you guys enjoyed this. You got to check out Quincy's channel. Can you tell them where to find it?
Yeah, man. YouTube.com/Quincy Carrier. You can just put in my name on the search bar. I'll pop up. You see my face there talking about Browns. I do film breakdowns for the Browns. I do a lot of breakdown on the Browns. I also have a podcast, AFC North Talk. It's also on YouTube. We do a live stream Tuesdays and Thursdays. So if you're interested in the AFC North, because it looks like, the Chiefs are probably going to be coming up against an AFC North team for a long time to come here, with the Browns and the Ravens showing themselves to be some decent teams here. It looks like somewhere in the AFC, you're going to have to play AFC North team. So why not get your intel? Why not be informed about your opponents? So check it out there. Thank you for having me on, Ryan. Appreciate this, man.
Yeah, this was a blast. Folks, we'll catch you next time.
Definitely.
Thanks for watching this video from the team at RGR Football. Click these videos to see more and subscribe to RGR Football.